What's up, everybody? Hey, Tom Laird here, host of the Advice from a Call Center Geek podcast and founder of Expivia. For exceptional contact center outsourcing, trust Expivia. We're fully AI-driven, as all of you know, and can handle voice, email, chat, and all of your digital channels. Our 600-seat USA contact center is expert in healthcare, financial services, insurance, tech support, retail, and more. Experts on the NICE CX1 platform, we ensure seamless customer experiences. DM me or visit expiviausa.com for more.
This is Advice from a Call Center Geek, a weekly podcast with a focus on all things call center. We'll cover it all from call center operations, hiring, culture, technology, and education. We're here to give you actionable items to improve the quality of yours and your customers' experience. This is an evolving industry with creative minds and ambitious people like this guy. Not only is his passion call center operations, but he's our host. He's the CEO of Expivia Interaction Marketing Group and the Call Center Geek himself, Tom Laird.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the call center and contact center podcast, where we try to give you some actionable items to take back in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve the agent experience, hopefully improve your customer experience as well. My name is Tom Laird. I'm the CEO here at Expivia Interaction Marketing. Expivia is a 600-seat call center outsourcer located here in beautiful, sunny, and kind of steamy northwestern Pennsylvania right now. How is everybody doing? I want to kind of talk. I think that this is a little bit of a special episode. A lot of questions that have come out of some of the posts that I did last week on LinkedIn on how we've been able to somewhat get to the point of being able to totally automate QA, or at least have the proof of concept to automate our quality assurance processes in our contact center with all of our different clients using the actual scoring forms that our client utilizes, our clients. You know, this was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. So I don't have all the answers on this. I'm not an expert on this. We are not a software company. This is something that we've tried to figure out to be an added benefit for our clients. And I think the lessons that we're learning can be taken by the entire contact center industry as a whole to say, hey, this can be done, right? This can really be done. And it's not as difficult, I think, as it may kind of come out to be. And to be honest, I think internal contact centers and BPOs and non-third parties, right? I think it's almost easier for us to do. This is one of the few tools that I think might be easier to do kind of in-house or do on your own than actually trying to go out and purchase a third-party software. Not to say that there's not stuff out there now, because of course, after I post that, I'm inundated with so many companies that are saying that they're doing this, and they are to maybe a certain extent, but I still really haven't seen the in-depth, how difficult some of our stuff could be that you really would have to figure out. And I think it would be very difficult. And I'm going to talk more about that as we go. So let me set the table here. I'm live on TikTok. I am live on LinkedIn. So a couple of you guys, hi, Sean, how are you doing? Kimberly, already on LinkedIn. Some of you guys here on TikTok as well. I'm going to do this as an AMA again. So any questions that come up, if you guys have anything that you want to talk about with this stuff, I'm going to get into it, how we've done it, how we're doing it, and let me know if there's anything that I can kind of help. Again, I'm an open book with this stuff. It's not like this is going to be a product that I think that we can really go sell, because to be honest, I think it's too easy. The thought behind this, you know, it's very difficult and very easy at the same time, which I kind of will get into. And again, I'm kind of just rolling off the top here. I have really no agenda because I think that there's going to be a lot of questions, but the only agenda, I want to talk to you guys about how we did this. So why did we think about automating our QA process first? And I'm a huge believer in sentiment scoring. I think sentiment is, as you guys know, if you've been following the podcast, you know, can kind of trump CSAT, can kind of trump NPS, because again, it's 100% of all of the calls, and it's scoring them in kind of a way that I can feel comfortable that, you know, we're using proper tone, we're using proper word choices. And it has definitely correlated to CSAT scores. It also has correlated to who's successful on the program from an agent standpoint. So I wanted to take that to another step. And all of us have been playing around with ChatGPT. We've been doing different prompts for different things. And, you know, as we were sitting here and talking through, we said, why can't we develop prompts that will go through our QA process, do it exactly like an agent. Now, these are in-depth prompts, right? So this is where I think the difficulty, right? It's really easy to do if you can figure out the prompt. It's very difficult to do if you can't and you don't understand the prompt, or you're lacking in some of that manner, which we've done a lot of experimenting with this to kind of figure that out. So the first thing that we did is we said, all right, we need transcripts. And I think transcripts, and Bob, just as a side thing, transcripts, in talking to a lot of my industry friends, especially at the CCaaS platforms, they're going away very quickly. Voice is going to be coming really soon to AI, to where you're not going to need the transcript. We're going to be able to do it directly at voice. At July 31st, 2023, we don't have that yet in a way that's, I think, affordable. So what we have done is we've taken all of the chat transcripts, we have basically all of them in our interaction analytics, right? So our analytics platform, we are utilizing and pulling our transcripts. Now, if you don't have transcripts, this thing becomes a little bit more difficult, right? And it becomes extremely expensive as well if you have to take your voice calls and go get them translated. So again, I think one of the added benefits of having analytics, right, is you do get the transcripts. And we are still working through this process. So let me say this as well. This is a work in progress. This is a proof of concept. This is not a finished product. We're not even rolling this out to our clients yet. This is just us figuring it out. And last week was like the big eye opener, like, holy geez, I think we can really, really do this. Again, we take the transcripts and then we started testing them on the ChatGPT 4 UI UX, the desktop, the basic, the $20 a month thing, right? Just to kind of test things out, test our prompts out. And some of these can be difficult. If you have a QA platform that is just, and we do have a couple of these with a couple of clients, they were the first ones we tested, that are just kind of yes, no, right? Did they do it? Yes. Did they not do it? No, right? All points, 0 points, right? So a yes maybe is 5 points, a no is 0 points. And again, we're talking about scoring off of actual scorecards that clients or you have had for the last 10 years that you like, that you benchmarked, that work well, that if the 80% or 90% or whatever that number is, 90 out of 100, that's going to correlate to a pretty good customer experience and that agent knows what they're doing. So you feel really comfortable with that. I think that was another problem, right? So many people say, hey, we're automating QA, but they're automating it with like their own proprietary numbers. They don't correlate well to, what we have used from a scoring system. So we wanted to do that. So again, if you have a yes, no, maybe you have 25 questions, each of those are worth, 4 points, right? For a 100-point score. And then you can very easily just write a prompt to say, hey, look at the transcript, answer these questions, score it at the end, right? Let me throw this too. And again, I have so much on my mind. It's pretty exciting. The prompt can also give you, and I mean, this is obvious, but the prompt tells you what you want your output to be as well, right? So you could just say, hey, go score the call. But you can take that different. Can you please score the call? Can you please show the sentiment of the customer and the agent based on the transcript? Can you give us, 5 ways that the agent can improve, even if they had a 100% score, or if they had a lower score, what are some of the ways that they can improve upon that? Right? There's a ton of different things that you can ask to get outputs that would be extremely difficult to do in a time-consuming way for an agent. Taking this, writing prompts, easy questions, that's an easy one. What happens if this is, I know a lot of you guys, right? And let me just say this too, the 2 things that you need, and I think that, again, I think all this stuff is obvious, but it's not being said. The 2 things that you need are, number 1, is we need to be able to have access to the data, right? So ChatGPT, whatever model that you're using, has to have access and be able to see it. So right now we're using a transcript. If you have things that are that they have to check on their screen, right, that an agent's doing, that's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult. So again, I'm not saying this is the end all be all. There are a lot of things that it's still not going to be able to do, but from an actual just transcript or voiced type interactions, I think it can do things pretty well. So here's a more difficult use case that we figured out, right? We have calls that come in, but there could be 4 or 5 different types of calls, right? There could be a sales call. There could be a service call. There could be somebody asking about a provider. There could be somebody canceling, right? And all of those types of calls correlate to different questions that are being asked, right? Everything from verification to, asking, what actually happened on the call, to disclosures at the end, to making sure that everything from a compliance, issue, if we do have a sale, from masking to doing all this stuff, right? That becomes extremely more robust. I don't want to say difficult, but I think more robust when you're thinking through the prompt, right? So you have to have a really analytical, logical mind, because again, this is still a kind of computer process, but you have to have the program knowledge and kind of the art, right, with that too. So again, we've been trying to bring in our whole team of IT, of management, of the on-floor guys that deal with this every single day, obviously our QA, to come up with really robust prompts that are kind of, there's a lot of if-thens that are a part of it. Looking at specific types of language. If a customer says this, really getting in depth, right, into what could be happening on a call that would then correlate to a specific type of call that would then move down the channel to a specific type of question from a QA standpoint. That's the reason I think it's going to be very difficult, and I'm not saying it's impossible, for a lot of these, and I did a video on this, a lot of the kind of SaaS players that are trying to do this as a business. It's extremely difficult unless you want to sit down with a customer and really sit through and talk through a prompt. I think there's a lot of things that you really need to look through, and there's a lot of trial and error that will go into what actually works and what doesn't. I mean, and to be honest, we have seen slight changes in verbiage, right, can have some significant changes in what happens with the output of the score. But I think when we got it to a point where we felt comfortable, and then we would correlate it with our QA, we call them EQA, Expivia Quality Assurance. When we would do that, they would correlate extremely well. I think from that aspect, we were doing, a pretty good job when it came to how do we now scale this, because we feel like we have a prompt that we can scale. Let me stop there. And there's a couple questions here that I want to go on LinkedIn. What do you expect the total upfront investment to be to get this working? Is it already integrated with ChatGPT API? Yes and no. I mean, I'm not there yet. I mean, to be totally frank, we're not there yet. We have connectivity. Our APIs are connected to ChatGPT. We have been over the weekend. We've tried to scale. And when I say scale, we try to do 10 to 15 different of the same thing. We're looking at that today, scoring 10 to 15 different calls or transcripts. Everything looks pretty good so far. There's a couple things that we have to change from prompts from when somebody calls in to cancel, right? We found some things that we need to tweak there. But from a cost standpoint, what we have found is ChatGPT 3 or 3.5, we can get pretty close to the same answers that we're getting in ChatGPT 4. The cost is crazy cheap when you're using ChatGPT 3. So I don't have it in my note. I have it in my notes. I don't have my notes in front, but I believe that if we were going to use ChatGPT 4, I forget what it was. Let me find out. There was I think it was 100 to 150 calls that we could do for like $20, right? Which isn't a lot, right? When you're talking about thousands of calls, how that correlated with the input and the output costs using the API. With ChatGPT 3 or 3.5, if we can get that to work with that, it was great. It was thousands of calls. That's something that we have to look at. But again, for me, being a BPO, I think that this could be an added benefit for our clients. So if I go to my client and I say, hey, listen, we have a way now to score, not just give sentiment, not just kind of give an arbitrary number, but use your scoring platform, use your scoring form that you guys wanted us to do. And we can score 100% of those calls, right? And again, there's other questions that go with that, like what do we do with all these calls? And right, we have thousands of scored calls, but we can have that conversation here as well. But I think, from us, there's a value add there that makes total sense. And also, I mean, let's talk about the inevitability here. If this does work, right? And I'm saying if. I'm not saying that this is 100%. I initially started this last week saying by the end of the year, I think that QA could be totally automated by these type of processes. And I really do believe that. And 6 months of work on this, I mean, this thing's going to be, for us, it's going to be awesome. I can't imagine if you have 200 programmers just working and focusing on this, they're going to be really good at it as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there will be a human toll when it comes to scoring, right? I think that this is the low-hanging fruit where we could see AI really take some of these jobs from a scoring aspect. But I think that moves, right? Because now we have so much more data scored. So now we have to look at what do we do with all that? And I think a lot of these QA guys, which they've been for a lot of organizations, they've been doing already, is coaching, right? And getting better with the agents, because you're not going to have to score. You're going to just have to be able to look at certain things, get outputs that you think can be helpful, find certain things that can improve the agent, and then go and start really coaching and get really in depth with that. So again, from a cost standpoint, I think it is negligible. When the third party guys come out, when the CCaaS players come out, I think it's going to be expensive. So, I mean, I think it almost pays to think this through yourself. Now, granted, it's not there yet. There's security issues. There's HIPAA issues. I'm not saying this is the end all be all, but how far this is right now is pretty insane. What you can do right now is crazy. And the scoring of calls at scale, if you have a good prompt, is really amazing. All right, another question. There's a lot that can be done in the space. Using ChatGPT is not the right thing to do, as this is a generic data set. I've just checked with some of our customers. They have 30 plus different types of audits. First step, bring all your data into a platform that can be used to train. Yeah, and I think that's what is going to happen eventually, right? That I think people are going to almost have their own instance of ChatGPT, right? Like, very large companies are going to do that. I don't care about the learning piece of this at this point. And I think that's where we go too far, right? The AI learning of what you want to do is something that's going to happen, and it's really awesome. But what I'm saying is you don't need that right now to score calls. You need an AI engine to actually just score calls. It doesn't have to be, this learning about each specific agent and, what the nuance is and kind of getting deep into that. I don't think you need that yet. I mean, it'd be awesome, but we're just kind of taking a tool that we're doing that probably doesn't have to be done by humans, right? And we're scoring calls and then giving kind of just some insights into what happened on that call and how to get things better. So from a learning and a machine learning, I don't really care, to be honest. I mean, I don't think that's like a roadmap cool. That's not a need. I think the need is, can you develop a prompt that can actually score calls like a human being or as close to a human being? Okay, let me see on TikTok here if we got any questions. A lot of, the same, what you would think you would get on TikTok. Okay. I think what we've done is cool. I think maybe just because we're talking about it, I am positive there's a ton of you guys out there, or some of you guys out there, that I've already kind of figured this out. Right? If you can program and you have the logic to program, then you definitely have the brain and the logic to develop specific prompts, right? On different types of audits, right? On different types of QA. You can score calls exactly how a human being is doing, asking the same type of questions that humans are asking, but you're actually just typing it out and having the ChatGPT process do it. Now, there's security issues right now. Right? Now, the good thing is it made me feel at least a little bit better that ChatGPT does not model off of API connections, right? So that data that goes back and forth, they're not modeling off of. That does not mean that things are totally secure. That does not mean we don't have HIPAA issues or PCI issues. Right? I think that there needs to be a lot of thinking that through, especially with what we're doing, to look at how do you manipulate, at least right now, the transcript. A lot of, from a PCI standpoint, we mask all the calls. Still, there's customer information, there's customer names, those types of things. From a HIPAA standpoint, obviously, there's some things that need to be pre-done on the transcript. And I think that's an AI solution. There's something there as well. But yeah, guys, I mean, literally, I mean, I kind of explain that in 20 minutes. That's really all we're doing is we're taking our chat transcripts from analytics. All right, we're pulling them in, we're indexing them so that we know, who is what and what program they're on and what skills. Right, we have an API that can then come and look and take the prompt that we have created, look at the transcript, and then score the call and give the outputs that we want based on what the client says. Now, here's the next piece is, and that's all we have right now, right? We're developing kind of a way to view, right, the outputs in a cleaner, better way. There's no APIs right now that we have with Nice CX1 to put them back into our QMA platform, which would be awesome, right? And I think that will probably happen, right? If we can figure out the scoring, then to be able to put them back in so that we can, maintain like all that agent integrity when it came to the QA. I think that this will be a huge benefit for our customers. I think that if you have one programmer on your staff, you can start to figure this out to do on your own. Don't get too complicated with it. Don't start thinking like we have to do all of this like crazy machine learning. No, you're just basically having it's the same thing of transcribing a call at the end and putting it into a CRM, right? There's no learning that has to happen with that. It's a job that it needs to handle. And I think if you can think of this QA piece of scoring on your calls as a job that AI can handle, you don't get caught in the weeds then with a lot of the things that I think people are thinking through. Take that first step. Develop your prompts. Practice it on the UI UX on the ChatGPT 4 or the 3.5 on the desktop. Find a prompt that works, right? Go to your QA. Have them score the calls, right? Make sure that you're within, I don't know. The one example that I gave the other day was, we scored it as an 82 point, the ChatGPT or the AI scored it at an 82.5. We scored things at an 84.5. I'm okay with that, right? We're in that world. And I'll tell you what, if I have 5 people in our QA department all score a call, I guarantee you we're going to have a lot of similarities, but it's not going to be always perfect on what they think based on how maybe robust that scoring is. So think that through as well. But yeah, so practice there. Find a prompt that you like, right? Use the API then to kind of put that in there, right? Have a mechanism to grab your transcripts, which I know can be that, to be honest, that's the hardest piece. The hardest piece is finding and getting the transcript, not the prompt, right? Because it's not something that we normally do. And if you have a transcript, it's a little bit different to index it and kind of going through all that process. So, and then if you find a prompt, you have the transcripts, you can then do some things at scale and really score. And then use all of that data to then, try to make your contact center better and realize it's not that difficult. And while there still needs work to be done on this, think about where this thing's going to be in 6 months. Just 6 months. I know some of the huge players that are working on this stuff right now. And I think it'd be very difficult. I think you have to almost have an onboarding team to sit down and really go through, like Kapil Sharma here on LinkedIn, he has a really good point. There's, they have customers with 30 plus different types of audits, and there's so many paths that QA can take based on human interaction, what humans can say. But you have to be able to account for as much of that as you possibly can with the prompt. So, but if that can be, if there's a hand holding to a prompt that everybody loves and likes, and then maybe they can just pass it off, this thing could be done. This thing could be done at scale. This thing could be done as a business. I know a lot of the CCaaS players are kind of thinking that through, but from what I'm hearing, there's more arbitrary, just kind of numbers instead of really looking at like a BPO method of, we have, 25 different clients and everybody has their own has their own form. How do we score that and kind of look through that? So yeah, guys, that's kind of what I got. I mean, I don't know if there's any more questions on there. Again, it's really cool, but it's really not that difficult, right? There's some things in it that are maybe unique to kind of get through, from figuring out the prompt, from figuring out how to get the transcript, from what do you do with the output. But that's kind of the fun part. right? Especially the output and kind of figuring out the prompt. Get your team together, have some fun with it. I think that you can really do some really cool things from that standpoint. And I think you can get this up quickly. Like literally, you can do this in a day. In a day, like you could at least be practicing and testing it on your prompt, and you can get a prompt done in a day for something that's very basic. So again, it's a whole new world out there. This is maybe the first real piece of AI technology that I think can hammer some type of low hanging fruit, which is the scoring of calls. Right? It's just like resetting passwords. It's like this, just give it good data in, and it's going to give you good data out. Doesn't need to learn. Doesn't need to get crazy into certain things. So again, that's what I got. If you guys have any other questions for me, please let me know. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm sure we'll be posting more on this. I love Chris Crosby. He's like, hey, you should do a prompt, have everything, but have the outputs be like with Michael Scott from The Office, right? I think there's so many cool things that you could probably do even with agents that could be funny, that could kind of change things. And again, if you think of it, and I know that's kind of funny, but that's how easy it is to change things, right, drastically, right, just with a couple words, just from a prompt. So learn how to write prompts, learn how to get really good at that. Teach your kids how to do it. Like I'm trying to get my kids to use ChatGPT all the time, not just for like cheating on school, right, but understanding how to write things and how to get the proper outputs. We have to be creative and we have to change on how we think as well. So hopefully that helps you guys. That's the secret sauce. Again, there's no real secret to it. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious with what we were doing, but I think the cool thing is it can be done. It can be done with maybe, if you have a little bit of API knowledge, you don't need to have a full robust team of programmers to get this done. I mean, obviously you can take it to different levels, but this base level of scoring your customers' calls, if you're a BPO, or scoring your internal calls, it can be done extremely easily. And let me know again if you guys have any questions, and I'm more than happy to help. But other than that, if there's nothing else, I'll talk to all you guys. Oh, hey, by the way, quickly, Wednesday at 1:00 Eastern, James Dawkins. He's coming on. He is the CX rock star. If you've ever seen him at CCW or any of the big contact center shows, he's kind of the rock star CX guy, huge influencer, huge into the AI as it relates to the contact center. So we're going to have a 1 hour AMA just talking about everything contact center AI, all the new stuff that's kind of coming on.
Let's go, guys. Let's go. Tap the screen, guys. Tap the screen.
Come on, just need a little love here, boys and girls. Where are you from, man?
So I'm from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, nice. I'm right down the road in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're in Erie, dude. I love going to Erie to the Mill Creek Mall, Splash Lagoon.